First of all, welcome everyone, and thank you for having me here today. I'm looking forward to starting off the conversation of kind of like Michael and Axel did this morning around why we're doing this, right? The technology in and of itself is something we all love and are fascinated by, and we use that technology, though, to contribute outcomes for customers, right? Things that solve real problems. So I want to give you a little bit of perspective on what some of those challenges are that our mutual customers have, the end users that actually consume the services that our products and tools and capabilities actually deliver. And I'm going to at least focus it for now on the enterprise customers. So our enterprise customers are working in a very dynamic landscape, and they face a lot of challenges. Some of these challenges we've already talked about, whether it's Industry 4.0, it's personalized experiences around how their consumers consume their products to run their businesses. Whether it's a retail store having an application that needs to know, oh, you're back in the store visiting, and here's the experience we want to enable you because we know you purchased these products in the past. Really having all that intelligence at the fingertips of the enterprise so that they know they can deliver true solutions and outcomes to the end user being their customers, their employees, their suppliers, partners, etc. And all businesses face these same challenges that we're also facing. Agile business development in our processes, the need to deliver agile enterprises that can adjust to the demands of the business in particular, the business in a certain place and time, and really deliver solutions to that workforce that's untethered. And untethered meaning the applications are mobile today, they're dynamic, the users are mobile and dynamic, the devices that they use and consume these applications on are varied and wide. And today we have to really deliver solutions and use those technologies to enable business outcomes that really deliver what we call ultra convergence, where data and applications, users are front and center, they're more dynamic than ever, and we build products and solutions to deliver those capabilities. That dynamic capability includes things we've already talked about this morning: cloud enablement, that mobile first experience, the fact that we have to use big data to drive the automation, and data science becomes even more important than ever because the data itself isn't where the value is. The value is in the insight that the data derives that we use to build those end user experiences. And the endpoints are growing exponentially. So, with IoT now, every device is connected. So the IT leader in a company has more types of applications and devices and users of their services that they have to support more than ever. And we're here to deliver the solutions that deliver those capabilities. Now, Verizon has used SD and NFV over the past 3.5, 4 years to make a start at delivering those capabilities. We've been in the market with SD-WAN solutions for about 3.5 years now. That was our first foray, and most customers still start their journey with us with SD-WAN. But as we know, SD-WAN is not just the underlay, it's not just the overlay. I might argue it's mostly an overlay technology, and the underlay is still the network, and the networks are variable, and the networks matter, and bringing all these things together in a service chain is where we've spent most of our development in the past year. That service chain being the need to connect the network to the deployment model a customer may use, and to the functions they consume, and ultimately to the applications that reside on top. We've also delivered some software-defined wireless LAN solutions that take advantage of the advanced beaconing capabilities in the market today. So we continue to deliver solutions to get customers on their factory floor information about where a user is or where a device is so they can provide optimal experiences. Application management solutions overlay all of this because it's important to understand not just packet loss, jitter, latency. Those things in and of themselves don't mean anything. You could have poor latency and still have a supreme application experience depending on how the application is built. So we're looking much more deeply now at that application experience, and our next steps on this journey will include deeper integration in the user experience and finally the transaction experience. So I really want to get all the way to the transaction level, not just to the application level. Application performance is one thing, but user and transaction performance are sort of the next holy grail. Orchestration and closed-loop service assurance, we've already talked about that a little bit today. This is where most of my development is focused in the next 18 months or so, in the past year, but looking forward, because this is where most of the complexity resides. Zero-touch provisioning, we have a whole Congress on zero-touch automation. Zero-touch provisioning is one aspect of that we've delivered this year, but again, it comes with its challenges because not all networks are created equally, and you have to provide zero-touch provisioning solutions for different type of networks differently. Universal CPE continues to be a place where customers are asking for new innovative solutions. They want to bring their own functions and have that work on the universal CPE, so managing that in today's world where containers aren't quite where we might like them to be, to make that flexible and easy to do as a new layer of complexity and interest for customers to deliver solutions. And then delivering those in the cloud architecture, we've deployed functions, mostly controller functions and firewall functions in cloud native solutions. We have our own hosted network service node. There's 39 service nodes across the world, but that we've also deployed functions in Amazon, and we'll continue to expand that. But deploying those capabilities in public clouds are also something customers need. Why? To make their businesses agile, to give them the flexibility they're looking for. We've deployed this, and if you've seen this at other NFV shows, this is a consistent approach. We've delivered this year 23 service chains. There's more to come, and this picture isn't representative of all of them. But this is difficult, and to me, service chaining is where sort of that interest comes to really connect the platforms that we build and the functions to something that's actually an end-to-end service that a customer consumes. They don't just consume universal CPE or a firewall function or a routing function. They consume something that is an end-to-end secure network function, for example. And we have to do that with automated service chains that are easy and tested and supportable. And I want to spend the last few minutes here on this platform layer, because this is where, as I mentioned, most of the focus comes, because it's at the platform layer where we really get to deliver service as a customer experience enabler. And to do that, in our view of the world, we've distributed the platform in basically 3 building blocks to make it a little bit easier for us to design solutions to. One is that presentation layer, which is, how do we give the customer that insight they need on the data that we derive from their service chain and their function that helps them make their application performance even better? How do they get the data they need to tweak the application, tweak the network, tweak whatever element may be necessary to improve that outcome for the user? So the presentation layer is important, how people see it. It's kind of like, an app, 2 apps may perform very similarly on your phone, but the one that gives you the better presentation experience is the one you're more likely to grab. Secondly, the business and application layer. This is where we really have to build the dynamic capabilities into these service models. The service models alone are very challenging, and to the point about lack of standards and integration, we struggle with that too, because while our solutions are built on OpenStack, there's still customization to make those functions work within our OSS, BSS systems, and I'm not a startup. I can't, trash everything that I have already and start clean with new systems and tools. I have to find ways to live in both worlds, and our customers do too, our end users do too. So we have to build solutions, to Axel's point earlier, that provide that pluggability and that ease of consumption, so that modules can be moved in and out to meet the varying demands of the business. The final layer there is the data access and management layer. This is where our cloud management capabilities come into play, the need for APIs for our partner ecosystem, and our extended partner ecosystem, whether it's using Sonata and other solutions with the MEF to provide network interoperability between companies, whether it's to provide vendor interoperability and functions, so that routing function from one company and a firewall function from another can work together, but really building those vendor gateways so that I can also provide testing capabilities, allowing my partners to come into basically an API machine to test their functions in my infrastructure and in in my deployment models with my closed loop service assurance to ultimately verify I can deliver to the customer an end-to-end experience that delivers a business outcome that they're looking for. And ultimately, again, that's what we're trying to get to. Not just the notion that if the network performs well, everything else should work just fine. That customer experience has to be acknowledged and accepted by the consumer. But it's very complex to do all of that, as we know. But abstracting that complexity from the user and the company is where we add deep value and solution with integration. So this is where, as I mentioned, our next area of focus is. We really have to orchestrate solutions to customer business needs. That means building solutions and networks that are intelligent, so I always have to know what's happening at every layer of the service chain and be able to respond to that with appropriate context. Not every outage is really an outage, right? Not every spike in traffic is a dangerous event or an attack of some kind. So being able to have the intelligence in our systems and tools and our people to adjust to those characteristics and changes in our solutions is necessary, again, to deliver the business need that the customer is ultimately expecting. We have to automate that. We still, have challenges sometimes with things that we have to do in a manual way, but those manual ways are prone to error and the human factors aspects of it. But automating out the errors is what takes time, and that's where much of our development work is focused in the next year. Real-time network and infrastructure deployments. This is where customers want to be able to do instant service chains. But as we know, for the most part, most networks aren't instant. You have to have some kind of foundational connectivity at a customer site, right, to bring up these functions. So while we can move virtual functions around and evolve to do that in a much quicker and easy way so customers can have their pop-up stores, unless you're dealing with wireless connectivity, you still might have to wait for that broadband circuit or that MPLS circuit or whatever the underlay is to be installed. So figuring out how do we have these dynamic networks that are always there, always on, is a challenge for operators like us because I got to pay for that, right? And our customers want to pay for consumption, but I still have to pay for that bandwidth that's sitting there. So these are the models that we have to sort of figure out as we go on these journeys together. And then this notion of self-learning. We can't have applications support the initial comments that I made about ultra-convergence and deliver those experiences for customers that give dynamic users and dynamic applications real-time support and enablement without actually delivering application performance in ways that are meaningful and integrated to the application specifically. So that's the next layer of challenge. We've spent a lot of times integrating with functions, but how much energy have we spent around making sure, for example, that ERP application can work on the variety of networks our customers have. Most customers don't have one single network. They don't have MPLS everywhere. They have hybrid networks, and delivering the same application experience, whether someone's using a 4G on their phone or whether they're using a 100 gig MPLS circuit at their corporate site, we have to make sure those solutions are delivered consistently. And so I think that's the challenge area for us as an industry in the next area of development. So, another call to action, and I think I echo some of the things that Axel says because it's some of the things we've struggled with. We have to stop talking about the technology. That's one thing we've sort of worked a lot with our sales teams over the past couple of years is don't go in and say, let me tell you about SD-WAN and what it is. You have to start about how can I help you with network segmentation, or how do I help you handle the fact that you do a lot of mergers and acquisitions every year in an easier fashion. And SD-WAN, for example, may be one of many solutions that helps the customer with that business problem. So we have to talk about the business problems and then back into the right technologies and solutions. And where they don't exist, we have to invent them and build them and continue on the innovation. And that's what keeps all of this kind of fun and interesting. The second thing is we're still struggling that most of the physical network functions today are not truly built for virtual network functions. A lot of times we're porting one to the other unless unless the function was cloud native to begin with, and that presents a variety of challenges for us, and they don't necessarily perform the same. So I think as an industry, we're going to have to get to a true cloud native virtual network functions so that we can support them in the cloud infrastructures that they sit on. And we have to take what I'll call the millennial approach, and maybe it's a little bit of a Gen Y approach. We have to have some openness in the community. We can't build our monolithic systems that we always have that we've had in the past. They gave us great security and reliability, but they're very inflexible and hard to change. So we have to build that approach that allows us to have loosely coupled but tightly integrated modules. Back to my platform slide, and that will be necessary to really deliver on the promise of these solutions and the varied business outcomes customers are expected. So that's part of the pluggability, the openness, the sense of community and sharing, and the sense of there's a place for everyone to play. I don't think it has to be all one size fits all. And you have, again, if you go back to a tightly coupled platform, we're sort of back to that world where customers don't have the flexibility to choose the right routing solution for them, or take advantage of one provider's superior security architecture. All of these things have to work in concert with one another. And at Verizon, I still believe I got to give my customers choices in the matter. I'm not going to be there to dictate which solution is right. I'm going to be there to recommend the right solution based on the business outcomes that they want. But there might be some solutions that fit in that customer scenario differently. That's why you saw in one of those slides multiple security vendors, multiple WAN optimization vendors, multiple SD-WAN solutions, because each partner provides a different suite of capabilities and distinct differentiators. So that's something I want us to think about as we continue out over the next 3 days here, and I want to thank you for your time. Have a good one.